Sean and I were hoping that nobody would turn up for this last session of the day, weren't we, Sean? We were thinking no one will want to come and hear about or chat about AI. But actually, that is why we're here. So, one of the things that Sean Rooney, as many of you know, is from Oxfordshire County Council. And Sean is also LGTAG president, but also has been a long-standing member of the LCRIG board. And each of our LCRIG board members have a number of different roles. So many of you will have heard from Ian, who leads on the innovation side of things, and actually how fantastic. We've got Carol in the room, who is also one of our board members that leads the Southeast group. And Sean helps on some of the sort of strategic aspects, and also leads the South Central regional group, which has a number of local authorities in it. Now, Sean and I started talking probably about 3 or 4 months ago. I was starting to see a pattern of local authorities contacting LCRIG and saying, you know, we're getting more and more suppliers coming to us with around AI, whether that be AI road condition, whether that be those that are using ChatGPT and then sort of making that into models that could be thought about for local authorities, other sorts of AI products starting to come to the market, AI within software systems, and I know we've got a couple of sort of software people in the room there. Hi, Hannah. And I think for us, Sean and I started talking about, well, what could we do at LCRIG? Because you've got literally a whole spectrum of local authorities. You've got some who are using AI at the road condition, but even at the road condition level, they're sort of, some are saying, well, actually, we don't want to use AI because we don't think it's, you know, it's ready, or that there's risk issues or whatever. And then others are saying, actually, we're quite happy to use AI. And, you know, we're using that to identify, that helps us, it's very efficient. And Sean was saying, wouldn't it be a good idea if actually working with local authorities and suppliers that we started to build almost not a how-to, but a sort of hints and tips, which Sean will talk about in a second. So again, I keep sort of reiterating, if you've joined these sessions throughout the last couple of days, part of having this Innovation Think Pavilion is starting to help inform not just, you know, we have great events at LCRIG, and you've been to, many of you will have been to Strictly, will have been to the Transport Technology Forum events, to the Innovation Festival, both this year, last year, and the first year. But actually, we're starting to get into this sort of space of let's look at the things and the problems that local authorities really want hits and tips. Not talking about think pieces that take, you know, 40 pages to get to the point, but what is the nub of what councils really need to know if they want to adopt various forms? And it was AI that came one of the first areas. So Sean and I thought, well, why don't we use the opportunity of here today? And this isn't the only sort of session that we're going to do, to get some insights from audience. So there is, I'm afraid, going to be audience participation, and we're going to shut the doors now. So if you don't want to participate, no, I'm kidding. But actually, we do want to encourage more and more local authorities, because it's you guys that are facing the problems, and it's you guys that are also looking at the various sort of solutions. And it's fantastic that we've got innovators in the room who are bringing new innovations to market. We've got also surveying companies in the room that have got their innovations that they're bringing to market that will, you know, have AI elements to it. But again, consistently, councils say, if I want to adopt AI, what should I be thinking about? What are others doing? So, Sean, do you want to talk about some of the things that we've started to sort of see and how we might build what we can do for local authorities?
Yeah, certainly. And as Paula said, this is an interactive session, because if you've heard me coughing for the last 2 days, my voice might give out at any point. So just please, you will be asked to interact. As Paula said, as with many things, you know, the whole ethos of LCRIG, and especially over the last couple of days, this is an innovation and learning festival. And where you are now, you're in a Think Pavilion. So this isn't a free lunch. We're going to make you think. And to be able to think, you also need to be able to contribute, and you need to be able to help us, because we're an organisation for councils, run by councils, supported by that. So some of the stuff that we're doing on AI, and we are developing a conversation, and we're developing a conversation with intelligent input, and that's what we're looking at from you guys as much as anything. and we will be doing a piece at our other keynote event in October. So sign up for that at Strictly as well. Building upon this conversation, building upon some of the work that Paula and I will continue to do so over the next month or so. And if you read the script of what you hear today is, what do we need to consider as local authorities when it comes to AI? I'm going to pose a question back at you. Do you actually know? Do you know what you need to consider? Because I think, and not going off script here, Paula, but it's a conversation. Because I'd never go off script.
No, absolutely not.
No.
You never go off script, Sean.
Not at all, not at all. AI, who can spell it? It's a simple question, but sometimes I think people spell it but don't realise what they're saying, what they're spelling. AI, it's a massive, big thing at this moment in time. But let's not forget, AI has been around for a lot longer, 20, 30, 40 years in some form or another. But what seems to be a resurgence is in that use of the terminology artificial intelligence. I challenge you to show me a true artificial intelligence product that we use in highway sector now. And as Paula said, we've got innovators, we've got surveyors, and I posed the question to Mike yesterday around about that brilliant product that is out there and still in the stand with a nice orange robotized. Is it truly artificial intelligence, or is it an algorithmic machine learning process? That sounds really intelligent, doesn't it? But there's people in the room that can define that better than I. But it is a question that I have quite strongly. What is artificial intelligence? And I think we need to get to the nub of what that means to each and every one of us. And this is around about what local authorities can do. And what we as local authorities need to do is work with the sector, which is what we do, to actually understand and not just listen to what the sector believe that we as authorities should be doing. And this is our interpretation of artificial intelligence. It's almost like, but not quite as bad, carbon is a massive agenda talking point at the moment. I think at last count there were 32 definitions and 32 versions of a carbon calculator. There's probably about 132 versions of what somebody's understanding of artificial intelligence is. And I think we need to cascade that down into something that is real and proper. And I've spent the last couple of days chatting to a number of colleagues who have got much more experience than I in this process. And I think one of the telling comments is that, well, what is AI to you? Well, we're already using it, but we just don't know we are. The fact that how many of you drove here today or yesterday and you use Google Maps, that's using artificial intelligence to provide a route for you to get here. Is it artificial intelligence or is it an algorithm? It's probably an algorithm. But we need to, we are using things already. Artificial intelligence is never, and here's a bold statement. Rooney says artificial intelligence will never replace the human being in full. Whatever we do, there's going to be the need to have an element of human interaction. And this is why the definition between artificial intelligence and machine learning needs to be clearly separated. Because, we've got survey guys, we've got, road condition, indices, etc., etc. You still need an element of somebody checking, and that validity and that collaboration of whether the artificial intelligence piece identifies something that an engineer would show. And until we remove that need for artificial, or the human touch to intervene, it's never going to be artificial. And people worry about artificial intelligence. It's going to take my job. Is it? Is it really? I don't think it is. I don't think it ever will. And I pose the question to myself and others, does artificial intelligence provide a future problem of de-skilling the organisations that we work in? Because there is almost that, and again, I'll go back to the Google example. Everybody just puts in, yep, we're going to go to Stoneleigh, we're going to go from Buckingham, press a button, and I believe that I turn left here, turn right to there. Hands up, and this is going to show a generational issue to some people. Who has a road atlas in the car? Who remembers how to use them? When was the last time you used it? That's the telling thing. That's the telling thing. And I bet half of you have got it on the back shelf along with a box of tissues and a cushion when Grandma comes in the car as well.
Actually, Sean, I think this is a really good point. Can we sort of, I'll take a picture of all those that said they did or didn't have an atlas in the back. That will probably tell us what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've lost my point there. But, it is around about that de-skilling side of things. Because we become autonomous in ourselves in as much as we just follow by route. We become the sheep herd. We just follow as we're told to do. Now, put that into the example of artificial intelligence. If artificial intelligence is telling us to do something, it's telling us to intervene at such a time or at such a location, that's what we're going to do. Do we question it? Do we challenge it? And, I'm a great believer in, I've always had favourite words as, and I'm not going to go down the mad analogy route just yet, but, show me, prove it. And we should be asking those questions of the systems themselves. Prove to me that what you've decided that I should be doing is correct. And I think, coming back to the de-skilling side of things, I don't think it will ever de-skill. But again, speaking to some wizened colleagues around the room and in the pavilion over the last couple of days, it's almost like and I am an apolitical local government officer, but I'm going to mention something that someone described, and they're not my words, but the socialist view, almost. You know who you are. The fact is that the use of artificial intelligence, the use of technology, really focuses the high-level skills required at the top end of how we use data, how we use the technology. What it leaves is that artificial intelligence can remove some of the monotony in those tasks, whether that be physical identification, whether it be analysis of some really horrible churning of data. So you've almost got the lower echelons of society. I've put that left to one side. We've got the upper echelons, but at a smaller level, and then you've got a gap of where people like me sit in between, the not quite so intelligent people, but not quite so hands-on. So there is a human element to this, and there's a human element to the way that we need to address artificial intelligence in what we do. So, is it a really scary thing, artificial intelligence? Because people have this fear that it's going to take my job away. People don't understand it. They don't understand what artificial intelligence is. So is it scary, or is it just misunderstood? I need a drink of water, so I'm going to pause, and Paula is going to speak.
Yeah. So I think you can see, for us at LCRIG, it's such a huge subject area, and where do we sort of focus? So from a local authority, for the local authorities in the room, how many of you think that, the fact that this is pretty full, this tent, gives a good idea that people are interested in the subject area. How many of our local authority friends in this room would really like LCRIG to help you think about what you should or shouldn't be thinking about in that sort of AI space? Yeah, quite a lot of hands.
Yeah,
and suppliers.
That's quite telling.
Yeah, and suppliers. How many of you would really like to be able to encourage local authorities to be able to adopt AI, but actually they're quite sort of on the fence about that? Could you guys put your hands up? Look at that. We've literally got a 50 split between local authorities that, we'd really like to get more comfortable about what we should or shouldn't be doing in that AI space, and suppliers. And I have to say, at LCRIG, one of our fastest growing areas of membership is organisations that are offering AI-based elements to their activities.
Just 1 second. I'm going to walk because I need the steps.
No, you don't. Oh dear. All I was going to say is, putting hand up as a supplier, actually what I'd like is an intelligent conversation about technology in how people use it. So not necessarily everybody just saying, yes, AI is great or otherwise. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'm coming from, is that sort of point of view. So thanks for that clarification, Christina.
And that's the purpose of today as well, to start that conversation.
Yeah.
So if you've got an intelligent conversation to start, we'll have it.
And I think and this is where Sean and I were saying, but where do we start? I've seen lots of nods. There are so much in that sort of AI space. Do we start at the really, really basic level? Or do we start a bit more sort of, higher than that in terms of the products? And this is exactly why we want these sessions. We want more of these sessions. We don't want to be sitting at LCRIG and saying, well, we think the suppliers want us to do this. And we don't want local authorities to say, well, this is a great piece of work, LCRIG, but actually it's made absolutely no use to helping me move my service forward. So Ian, you had your hand up there. And by the way, we do have a couple of people taking notes down here, so...
It was just a question about AR. So most of our interaction with AR is through a software. So we have a software which is clever, but you can use AI. You can just use it. We had this discussion earlier about using AI. Just sort of pose that question: Are we thinking about clever solutions with AI, or we're thinking about AI?
I think what we need to do, Ian, and yeah, there's more and more people, and this isn't just around about the identification of defects, road condition indices, traffic modelling for signals, etc., or road condition. It's around about everything that we do, and we as an authority, we're fortunate that we're trialling Copilot. Apparently, there are other software providers out there, but we find it quite useful. And it's quite telling why we find it quite useful, because we spend most of our lives in meetings as local authority officers, at a certain level. Let's be honest, that's what we do, isn't it, Dwayne? And Copilot, I refer to it as Hermione's handbag, because what it allows you to do is to go back at that meeting that you didn't attend or you couldn't attend, and it gives you a summary, so you can actually keep on top of things. So that's one element of AI. But I think, Ian, the point is, we need to understand what the problems are first, and we need to lead that, not just be led by the sector that they think we want to know. So that's one of the questions that we need to come from you, and we'll come to you in a second, is what are the problems that need solving? Do we know what those problems are? And let's be realistic about, is that solution going to create more and more and more data that we don't use already? Again, going back to the resources that we have or don't have, we've got to manage those effectively. And if the solution by using AI creates another 3,000 gigabytes in a cloud that's overtaken by, apologies, but I got, loading up to the cloud wherever it may be.
Or does it?
Or does it? Do we
or
really
does it actually
that?
help reduce that problem?
Well, I don't know. No, that's an interesting question, and that's what I'm trying to say. Let's create gigabytes and gigabytes of data that is going to provide a solution for something that we don't necessarily need the solution for. We've got a higher priority that we want to use to find a solution for. So we spent all this resource doing something, and the real thing that we need to, get back to basics almost. And that's what I'm saying, get back to basics, understand what is the problem. And that's what I'd really like to hear from yourselves, is understanding what is the problem that you want to fix with AI. Don't just look about the fact that it's the latest buzzword, and the likes of Microsoft are pushing it down our necks. Is it really? Oh, go. I think it's a question.
Yeah, Gunny.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, before then from Warwickshire County Council. Yeah, I think as engineers we need to make an informed decision, and you're rightly saying that there's so much data out there. We need to know how to get that data, use machine learning to highlight this is our problem and this is what we need to address. So for me, from traffic signal point of view, it may be congestion points, it may be accident problem sites. I need that information to say, look, this is what I need to be aware of and how to tackle that problem, and look at what the state of the asset is that I'm maintaining, where I should be prioritizing that. So I totally agree with what you said, the synergy of traveling from A to B. The machine, the satellite system will tell you which route to take. But because I'm coming from Warwickshire, yes, it told me a particular route, But then I use that intelligence myself to say, yes, I know it's telling me to that way, but if I go this way, that might be slightly better. So you're getting information from the AI, but you're using that human touch that you referred to add value to it and use that better synergy to deliver better service.
But just on that example for artificial intelligence, the next time you do that journey, because you went that way, it should take you that way. But it is, it's around about that use of data. And we talk about skills gaps, and we've got to link, everything's interlinked. It's intertwingled. I think intertwingled is a lovely word. And, there's lots of everything that we do intertwingles with each other thing. And the skill shortage that we face, the gaps that we've got now, we're going to be employing people in 3-5 years' time, and we have not got a clue what they're going to be doing yet, because life moves on. We're going to need more and more data analysts rather than highway inspectors. And it's around about that. If those people are impacted by artificial intelligence stroke machine learning, can they be retrained, reskilled into the use of data analyst as opposed to someone who goes out with a tin of paint and a string line?
And we've heard from before, have we got any other local authorities, the sorts of challenges you're thinking about in terms of that AI space?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question when you're talking about whether it's AI or whether it's the use cases of AI. And I think if LCRIG are pulling together some documentation for it, I think there's a lot of authorities out there that don't understand what AI is and the possibilities of it, and having some use cases, this is how it was used, this is the resource saving that maybe it made, or if you haven't got a resource or a lack of resource at the council, you can use it in this way. I mean, there'll be a lot of councils that have Copilot as part of the packages that they're buying, but they're going to have no idea what it is or the abilities to use it. So I think having those use cases and having those councils to talk to will help sort of build that knowledge.
And that fits in really well. Ian, we'll come to you in a second. Do you want me to walk down there because I can get my steps up? I'll walk whilst
Go for it, Sean.
Thanks.
Don't trip over any chairs.
I won't, but I forgot what I was going to say.
Our board member, everybody.
Yeah, it's my age. I will come back to that.
Thanks, Sean. Ian Joel from Gates. So just going back to the first question I think you posed, Paula, where you said, what can LCRIG do to start this conversation? I think personally the most important thing is to define what AI is. You start off by saying that, what is it? Now, I'm old enough to remember when computers came in and replaced paper. They had this computers, this scary thing. But there's different levels of computers, there's different levels of AI, and I think you need to be really clear of what you actually mean by AI and the various categories in it. And I've listened to quite a few podcasts recently on this. There's Infinite Monkey Cage and there's a few on the BBC about this. And they talk about AI being general, and then there's general AI, which is the really clever stuff. And I think the first thing that LCRIG could possibly do is to have a definitive list of the categories of what it is. Is it machine vision? Is it just a simple spreadsheet, for example? Or is it something that's more sophisticated around intelligent learning? And to define what those categories are, and then you can then pick the use cases for each one. And for me, that is the first point, is to AI is just this massive thing, but there's lots of things in it and there's lots of nuances and lots of applications. So that for me would be the first step, is to actually have a debate and define what those levels and categories are.
Thanks, Ian. And I think generative AI, which is the stuff that's in the news at the moment, and Copilot and ChatGPT and everything else is a key thing. I'd just like to hear from a couple of local authorities and perhaps yourselves at Roper. I didn't get my words out today. Carol.
Thanks. Carol Valentine from Kent County Council. Really interesting stuff that's been said. Just going back on the LCRIG, what LCRIG can do, I really agree with Ian from over there in terms of pulling that together, because when you started off, Sean, talking about the definition, I had a conversation with our corporate director who's sort of very much into this space, and he was saying what you said, this isn't AI, a lot of what we're using, it is machine learning, it is, that AI is something else. And I think we need to understand what AI is. And I think as far as LCRIG is concerned, if I think about local authorities here, we've all got similar issues and similar problems, and we go about a different, Coventry may have done something that we could learn from. We may do something that another authority can learn from. So maybe there's a space there for LCRIG to maybe pull some of that together. And I think from the supplier point of view, we get we have lots of interactions with suppliers who are bringing AI, whatever it is, to the market. But we don't always sit down and think what the problem is. And, I was at the LG Tag conference a few weeks ago. One of the things that I really took out of that is about doing the research first to find out what the problem is. And I think we need to take a step back because we get bombarded with things and we can do trials, we can get money to do a trial, and then nothing happens with that. So I think we need to be able to do that research. And I think that collaboration, I know we talk about it all the time, it doesn't really happen enough. And I think if we get a bit more of that, we can move forward in a better lockstep with other authorities. But I want to push something back to Sean in terms of the always needing the human interaction, because I think in some cases that will be true, and in some cases it won't be true, because we don't know what the future is going to bring, and I think it's going to come very quickly. And the second thing is about the proof to me that it works. Nobody came and asked me whether my sat-nav was going to work. I just put it on, put my things, and it worked. Well, sometimes people ended up in a river, but more times than not, it worked. So I think things are going to move on quite quickly. And what I found with Lead on Innovation in Kent over the past few years is that everyone's happy to do a trial, but when we want to actually implement something, people are nervous about it. So how do we make that step change that says, actually, you can trust that bit of kit that's going around picking up potholes, or you can trust what we're getting from the drone and all the AI machine learning that goes behind it to say, yes, we can do an intervention here or there. And I think there's still that nervousness of us taking that next step. So I know this is covering a number of things, but I think there's something about how we as local authorities and supplier we identify what the problem is properly through research, and we're willing to take that leap of faith that says, actually, let's use this stuff.
So, 30-second digression, Paula, stick my other hat on for a second. Yes, the conference, as my presidential theme, is around about collaborative research, taking that research to reality. We work closely together as organisations, and that you're absolutely right. We need to understand, it goes back to what I said before, understand what the problem is before we come up with a solution. And let's test it. The human element of it, yeah, you're right. In some instances, we won't need people. In some instances, we will. But what I was trying to say is we'll need different people with different skills. Going back to we don't know who we will be employing in 3 or 5 years' time. Coming back to, how do we move to that next step? It's like me jumping off the stage. Carefully. And that's the problem. We do things too carefully. We don't take that leap of faith. And I think with a lot of the conversations that we've had over the last couple of days, and I think I can't remember, I was in here yesterday and I raised the question, the biggest blocker is people. And what we need to do is to remove those blockers, to actually change the mindset of people. And we can only change the mindset of people, as you quite rightly said, to give that understanding of what we're talking about. Is it category 1 AI? Is it category 2? Is it going to give me the... People are afraid. I know that's not a word, but it might be a northern word. It is a northern word, isn't it? Afraid. It's like intertwingled. The fear of the unknown, and that's what we need to overcome. And that's what we're looking to do with what we're trying to achieve is, as Paula said, we've had so much involvement and questions. How can we do things together?
It's actually been overwhelming, really, hasn't it?
Absolutely overwhelming.
From both sides, from suppliers saying we are desperate to be working with councils.
My gas has been flabbered. It really has.
Gas has been flabbered, but yet we do want to do something sensibly. We don't want to just pop something out there. So absolutely, this is just a part of I suspect, ongoing conversation, but not too long a conversation, because as you say, David, having some really simple use cases about what's already there would be incredibly helpful.
Yeah, Sean, you touched upon risk averse, but we're a public authority and we are using public money. So it is very difficult for local authorities to take that jump or the leap of faith, or to say. However, if we're working in collaboration, we learn from that and share that experience, then that's a win-win situation. But as Warwickshire, when I'm trying to do something, deliver something new, I need to know that public money I'm using is going to be used effectively and efficient. It's not for innovation. I'm accountable for that.
And absolutely, and again, this is sort of a general point. We often have local authorities say to us, "We've got AI sort of safety inspection systems. We're not sure case law on that. We don't want to be the first to be case law on that." So there's all sorts of different sort of unwrapping, but yet some authorities are thinking about how they might use that.
And I think just to pick up on your point, I'm a local government officer. I'm responsible for millions of pounds as well, and it's the public purse. I'm right behind you. We do have to hold ourselves accountable. Internal audit are my friends. They've got to be, because and our finance colleagues are my friends. Keep those on board, and they'll keep you safe. But the fact is that again, it comes down to people. You've got organisations, and I'll use Warwickshire as an example. It may or may not be the case. That strategic support, that strategic direction that you have from your chief exec down, from your elected members down, may still be that really risk averse. Whereas, I'll use Blackpool as an example because Ian sat there, it may or may not be the case, and there are other councils available. The fact is that his chief exec, his leader, says, I just want to be at the front page of Highways magazine, being innovative. Go out there, try everything. There's a term that I'm going to get wrong, but the gist of it is, let's try something and fail fast. If you're going to fail, move on. How did you learn to ride a bike? You remember? You start off with your tricycle. And your mum and dad buy you this shiny tricycle. And I'm going to go with the analogies. So don't look at me like that. Yeah, David, and then we'll come to Christina. But the fact is that you had a tricycle. And then you move on, you've got this bright, shiny bike from the second-hand shop in Ashton-under-Lyne, where I remember, where it had stabilisers on. And your dad's there running down the street like this. And then all of a sudden, you take one stabiliser off, and then you fall off. But you get back on again. And then your dad takes the other stabiliser off, and he's running down the street. Go on, son, go on, go on, go on. And before you know it, your dad's let go. And you've actually learnt by falling off. You've learnt by failure. And you can still ride a bike now.
But you don't have litigation.
No, you don't have litigation. Well, I was a kid in the 70s. I got scraped knees every day and everything else. But anyway, that's my mad analogy from that one. I could have made it really easy and put it across to you. How do you learn to ride a horse? Fall off it and you get back on it.
I've got one, Sean. It's all right.
You've got one.
I've snuck
I'll
one in.
Down here, get my steps in.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're talking about research and collaboration as well. I think it's really good to see more universities coming to these, and I think that we should really be looking at the academic sector as well and bringing them in on these demonstrations to provide that third-party assessment, maybe a quantitative assessment for us, which then helps us build the business cases with our senior officers and senior leaders to say, well, actually, this is the assessment that we've done the research. And then that lets us go back to those internal audit teams and provide them with the evidence that allows us to go and implement some of these things.
So I put you down as the pseudo universities in the room. So what do you think?
I think quantitative assessment is probably the key also to give confidence that whatever you are trialing is actually beneficial for you. And I think from our perspective, let's put the supplier perspective, what we are missing sometimes is what the baseline we are comparing with. So in our case, for example, we can have our RSI, whatever it is, telling you this is a pothole, and I can give you, 95% confidence that if there is a pothole, I'm telling you that there is a pothole. Is it enough? Do you want 95? Do you want 97? Do you want 99? Of course, everyone wants 100, but no AI will ever give you 100. Exactly, but we don't know how good the human is. So what are we comparing against? And maybe that's something that is more on the academic side. If I'm still a member of University of Liverpool, so I can put my other hat. It's the kind of study that academia is good at doing, if you want. And setting the bars so that whenever it comes to selecting your use cases, for example, you can say if you reach this level of performance in whatever task you're doing, then you're confident when you adopt it, you get this cost saving or this efficiency improvement. And that will guide us because we know when to stop. Otherwise, we can keep going up, but then the cost of going up gets exponentially high. And then for the solution that we provide to you get expensive, more and more expensive, and then it's a vicious cycle to some extent. At some point, we need to know where to stop, I think.
And I think that's a really good point, is that in some respects, David, one of the points you raised, sometimes I see suppliers being asked to get to the absolute nth degree and getting to that last little bit becomes then an incredibly expensive product that then doesn't become something that you guys sort of buy. So, Sean, we had a...
Yeah, I was going to say, when we're talking about the definition of machine learning, AI, etc., what's also really helpful, I think, is how does it learn? What's it influenced by? Because, again, there can be quite a lot of misunderstanding. Even Google search engines just give you what it thinks you want, or who's paid for adverts. So I think understanding how things actually develop, which ties into your conversation as well, that people may not expect 100% if they understand how things actually have to be trained, how they learn, which ones learn of their own accord, which ones have to be labelled up, which ones have to be, deep learning, but supplied lots and lots of data. And I think that would just be a very useful addition that would also maybe help reduce some of that risk averseness, because you'll start to understand the beast that you're dealing with.
Yeah, and as you say, it might be that, oh, right, well, I'm using that. That's going to be an inference level, but that's not going to give me a sort of a final sort of level point.
I think, just picking up on the point, yes, there are a number of academics in the room, clever people. 2 of them, at least. Shervin, who's a colleague of mine from AHE. All right. Do you want to talk from an academic perspective? Have I been talking tosh?
So I'm Marcus Enoch. I work at Loughborough University, and we've actually about to launch a transport and AI Innovation Centre in 2 weeks' time. So unfortunately, I don't have a web address yet, but I'm happy to give anyone my card. And what we're looking to do is build links with industry and with local authorities, put you all in a kind of a network, if you like, and we'll be hopefully doing a number of events and other services, like providing access to our graduate students and placement students that we produce as a university. And the idea is that by knowing what your issues are, we can kind of try and cater for what the sector needs going forward. One thought we've been kicking around this morning, actually, is the idea of a sort of a short course, maybe next summer, 5-day kind of event where we teach about econometric modelling and potentially like an AI kind of bit as well, or perhaps if that's not, that we can kind of tailor what we're talking about depending on what the demand is. So lots of things that we could do, and we like the point about potentially evaluating products and interventions and so on. That's something that we do as universities. So I guess I'll be talking to Paula after this about what we could offer. But if anyone's got any direct experience or comments that you'd like to make to us, we're here to learn and listen and find out what it is we can help you with. Thanks.
Thank you, Marcus. And we've got about 5 or 10 minutes sort of left. But I think, I don't know about you, Sean, but the fact that you and I had this conversation a couple of months ago and say, is this going to be is this a thing that people do want to help and advice around? And you're seeing nods from sort of both sides of the room. And certainly do email the LCRIG team if you want to be part of that sort of process. Is there anything you just want to say? Again, I know we've got other sorts of people who want to ask questions or whatever, but we do only have 5 minutes left. And you've already teased me today about overrunning.
I would never tease you.
Yes, you would.
You know me too well. Okay, so if I was to summarise and close, what do we want? What do I want from you? What do I want from your colleagues? As I said at the start, this is the Think Pavilion. I want you to think. I want you to collaborate. I want you to engage. I want you to tell us what you want from us as an organisation. Give us some good examples. If you believe you've got a really, really good example of artificial intelligence, tell us, share it, learn it, so we don't have to do it again and again and again. Okay? So I want you to take away from today, Rooney and Claytonsmith. That got really. He's got, is it Claytonsmith Rooney? I don't know. Paper publication.
Claytonsmith Rooney.
So that's defined as Rooney Claytonsmith paper. Sean and Paula. Okay? Sean and Paula. Yeah. but it's in it. Shervin will come to you in a second. So it isn't a free lunch, even though you got a voucher for the burgers and pasties, and the pasties were lovely, weren't they? Come back to us. The success of any day isn't measured upon the success of the day. It's measured upon the legacy that comes from that day. And what I want to do is make sure that there is a legacy that LCRIG is proud of, that I'm proud of, that we're all proud of, and that we can all learn from. So that in October, when we update you on what we've done on the use of AI, we got something really positive to say. So that's what I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's it really. This is the start of a process. We were sort of hearing these sort of mutterings from local government, from suppliers. I think you've effectively confirmed today that actually LCRIG does need to be doing something in this space. Again, hope you can see a few nods around the room. And I know there's some of you going to be in contact with us. That's brilliant. And we will do the best we can with that. And actually make as much sense as we can. And even if we can't, make a start.
We will try and make sense, and I will come up with some new analogies for October. It may involve elephants and toenails, but I know. Shervin, is it a quick statement, comment, or example? We'll give him 30 seconds, shall we?
Hi, Shervin.
Hiya. So I think one of the things I've observed being an academic, and I think maybe the last 4 or 5 years an industrialist, is that sometimes there is a vocabulary difference. So things like that we sometimes in academia like to overcomplicate it is already done in much more optimized way. So I think my experience with this is we are doing really, really great examples of excellent work in public sector and private sector, and in academia sometimes we do them in a different way. Sometimes we are ahead of the game, sometimes the public sector with various barriers are ahead of the game, sometimes private sector is. I think what LCRIG, my short involvement in the last 1 or 2 years with it is this is a really good start bringing people together from different bodies, whether we like it or not. The link is maybe needs to be improved, and I'm grateful for Paula and Sean and others in LCRIG and LG Tag that brought this idea that we can start things together and really make the bridges between different sectors that we have, and then we'll take it on there. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Shervin.
I've actually got one final thing to say, as well as my final thing just then. What reminds me of LCRIG, and Paula said that I've been involved as an advisory board member for some time. And for those of you who may or may not remember him, Will Britton started LCRIG a long time ago now.
2013.
What she said. And it started around about the group, and he always used to say, LCRIG is around about people getting together. It's almost that fireside chat. I've got this vision in my mind, and you're going to walk out of this room with the same vision. I'm envisaging, just where Ian sat, a lovely fire, a lovely campfire. This is a great conversation around the campfire. We now need to make sure that we take that vision away and we continue with that conversation. We build upon it so that when it comes to October, we're all outside on the beach watching this huge bonfire because the flames have grown, the flickers of interest have formed. We've moved forward. She's despairing with me. She is not going to ask me to do this again, I know. But this is the last session of today.
A bit D-Mob happy, aren't you, basically?
No. It's just that the drugs are finally kicking in. And I'm a bit D-Mob happy. But the fact is that this is the last session of the day. And look at it, this is a full room. So it's obvious there's interest out there. It's obvious that we need to do something.
We're definitely doing something.
So what we need to do is pull our fingers out. But I'm going to be pulling your fingers as well. And that needs to come out with, that reaction that
not
you're
sure
not...
I like that analogy.
No. But you've all got that filthy childish mind, haven't you? If you pull your finger, I'm going to get a reaction. The reaction is that you're going to learn with us. The artificial intelligence is going to grow with the people in this room and beyond. So pull your fingers out. Remember the fire, okay? And let's, using the analogy of Ian, let's quantify. There's some really quick wins here as well. Yeah. But I will finish, and I mentioned it earlier. The whole issue of artificial intelligence is a massive problem that we all need to address. How do you eat an elephant is the usual question. Start chewing its toenails.
Oh, God.
So let's all go away and start chewing some elephant's toenails.
Absolutely not. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for sort of being involved.